What's up, fantasy hockey fans? Welcome back to the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Big news, big signings in the season opener, and big time bets are back. Let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Thank you so much for making it your first listen every single day. Continue to hit the subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. I hope everyone out there is enjoying the season opener. I know the Global Series was last week, but the season opener for the 2024-25 NHL regular season, 3 games on the schedule, history in the making. The Florida Panthers raise their Stanley Cup banner. They get their Stanley Cup champion rings. Dylan Guenther making history in Utah for the Utah Hockey Club, getting the first goal ever in Utah for the new club there. And they get the first win in their inaugural season in Utah. So congratulations to the Florida Panthers. Congratulations to the Utah Hockey Club in a 3-2 win in their game, or a 5-2 win against the Chicago Blackhawks in their season opener, as well as the St. Louis Blues winning their season opener 3-2 against the Seattle Kraken. Big games on schedule for this week. We're going to get to big time bets later in this episode, but I know I'm throwing around the word big a lot, but there's been some major signings across the National Hockey League, 2 of them coming in that Atlantic division, 1 coming from that Seattle Kraken organization. I'm just going to jump right into it with the Carter Verhaeghe news and the Florida Panthers. What a way to open the season for this franchise, for this organization. They raise their banner. They get their Stanley Cup champion rings, which look absolutely sweet, if I say so myself. It is absolutely stunning piece of jewelry. But season opener, 6-4 win against the Boston Bruins. And, you know, even with the Jeremy Swayman, they still go with Jonas Korpisalo. And we knew what that Boston Bruins Korpisalo era was going to look like. And we got that in game 1. With 6 goals allowed from Jonas Korpisalo in his season opener with the new organization. So tough start for the goaltenders, tough start for the Boston Bruins. The Florida Panthers have their number for the last couple of seasons. But Carter Verhaeghe signs an 8-year deal worth $56 million with an average annual value of $7 million per year. I mean, absolutely incredible for one of the most underrated and most hardworking players in the National Hockey League right now. A guy who really, again, didn't really get a fair opportunity with the Toronto Maple Leafs like we saw in the past. He goes to the Florida Panthers and has absolutely put on a clinic over the last few seasons. 70 back-to-back 70-plus points for Carter Verhaeghe, back-to-back 30-plus goals with a 42-goal outing in the 2022 season. Absolutely deserves this contract, and this means big things for the Florida Panthers and their future. When I look at their contracts, when I look at their team and their organization for the next at least 5 to 6 seasons, they've got Alexander Barkov locked in for the next 5 years at his value of $80 million, $10 million AAV. Matthew Tkachuk locked in for the next 5 years. Sergei Bobrovsky, his contract is coming to an end at the end of 2025. But you got Sam Reinhart locked in for the next 6 years. Carter Verhaeghe, like I just said, he's locked in for the next 8 years. Gustav Forsling locked in for the next 7 years. Anton Lundell locked in for the next 5 years. This is going to be a dynasty of an organization. With those 6 players alone, Alexander Barkov, Matthew Tkachuk, Sam Reinhart, Carter Verhaeghe, Gustav Forsling, and Anton Lundell, who's still only 22 years old and in the first year of his contract. This means big. It means big for this franchise and this organization moving forward. Number one, they've been in the Stanley Cup Finals for the last 2 years. They just won their first ever Stanley Cup championship ring. This could become a dynasty in this next decade, or at least in the next 5 years, over the next 5 years for the Florida Panthers. Major news for Carter Verhaeghe signing this deal, getting, the news coming out after that season opening win against the Boston Bruins as well. He's such a skillful player, sharpshooter, loves picking the corner short side. He can set up his teammates like we've seen in the last 3 years as well. 30 plus assist seasons in consecutive 3 seasons for Carter Verhaeghe. So massive news for the Florida Panthers, getting this contract done, having all those guys locked in for the next 5 to 6 seasons with this franchise. So, I mean, they're off to a great start, winning 6-4, like I said, in that season opener against the Boston Bruins. There's, the rivalry between these two teams now. And I'll move over to another team in the Atlantic Division that the Florida Panthers are actually going to be playing tonight in the Ottawa Senators in their season opener and home opener as well. Linus Ullmark signs a 4-year contract, $33 million, 8.25 AAV with the Ottawa Senators. He's talked about how excited he is to be there, been traded there from the Boston Bruins organization. A lot of it went in, a lot of the decision making that went into this was obviously for his family as well. Where, what's the best situation? Where's the best area for his family, his kids to grow up and feel like they can be at home? And he chose Ottawa, which is a great place to be, to raise a family. And in a short window of time, Linus has been able to see the culture that is growing in the hockey club, as well as the family experience in the community in Ottawa, Gatineau. So like I said, a lot of it was based on what is going to be the setting and the scenario for his family, but obviously a great setting for the NHL career for Linus Ullmark, especially at the age that he's at, 31 years old. He signs that 4-year deal, so he'll be 35 years old for when this contract is over for the Ottawa Senators. But a guy who definitely deserves it, and a guy who I've talked about as being a little bit underrated and overlooked throughout his NHL career, especially with the Buffalo Sabres. You go back to some of those seasons at .915 save percentage, a .917 save percentage. Yeah, maybe not getting the wins that they would have liked to see, but he still had a winning record, 17-14-3, 15-14-5. But it was a tough, it still is, has been a few tough decades for the Buffalo Sabres. He goes to Boston. He has that relationship and connection with Jeremy Swayman, who also just signed that monster contract. And he gets a great deal for the Ottawa Senators, who have been looking for a starting goaltender, who went and got out Jonas Korpisalo. They trade him immediately after one season, after the debacle and performance that he was putting on in front of that fan base. So really looking forward to Linus Ullmark this season. Fantasy value-wise, I think he's going to outperform his ADP. I think a lot of people are still sleeping on this Ottawa Senators team. Flip and I have talked about this organization over the last 2 years. Are they a playoff caliber team? We believe they are. When you look at some of their guys right now, obviously Brady Tkachuk, a top piece fantasy value-wise, leader for this organization. Drake Batherson, Tim Stützle, who can get back to 90-plus points this upcoming season, hopefully. You want to see maybe some consistency in Josh Norris's game. Can he remain healthy throughout the season? Is that shoulder going to bother him later in his career, or later in this season? Shane Pinto, what does it mean for him? Maybe getting some of that second line center position if Josh Norris starts to struggle or starts to get injured once again. So a lot of pieces on the back end. Jake Sanderson, Thomas Chabot, who can still get it done. Artem Zub, who's a fan favorite in Ottawa. And then now you get Linus Ullmark, who's going to change the pace and change this confidence and get the confidence boosting for this organization. And again, I've drafted Linus Ullmark in a few of my leagues, so I'm happy and excited to see what he's able to do for my fantasy hockey team. But a monster, massive contract for the Ottawa Senators, who continue to look for their number one goaltender and have now gotten a number one goaltender in Linus Ullmark. One more signing in the Western Conference. From that Seattle Kraken organization. Joey Daccord also signs a monster contract. And we got big-time bets coming back. First time doing big-time bets for the 2024-25 season. A little bit disappointed that I'm doing it solo, but we got to get those big-time bets in there for all of you gambling degenerates just like Flip and I. We out here gambling every single day out here on FanDuel. Speaking of which, we'll get to FanDuel later in this episode. But first, this episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time. You shouldn't have to worry when buying your tickets to your next big event. That's why Flip and I, we always use the Game Time app. Game Time is the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. Save even more with exclusive in-app deals, on select seats ahead of the game or event. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Once again, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. Continue to hit the subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. We appreciate all that love and support you've shown us. Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock in the morning is when you can find our episodes. I hope everyone's fantasy hockey team is off to a great start as well. Obviously, again, only one day. We had the Global Series, like I said, but only one day into the season. October 8th was when the season started technically. Or not technically, but I hope everyone's fantasy hockey team is doing great and you like what you drafted. We hope that you do have a successful season and you get that championship, get that dub in. Joey Daccord just got that dub and he secured the bag with the Seattle Kraken. Massive deal for Joey Daccord. Right there behind Linus Ullmark that we just talked about, signed a 5-year, $25 million contract with the Seattle Kraken on Wednesday. It has an average annual value of $5 million beginning in next season. He was an unrestricted free agent. He gets this contract. He's in his second full season in the NHL after putting on a great performance last year. Kind of struggled towards the end of it, but besides last year, the 2023-24 season, he'd only played 19 games in the National Hockey League. So it's massive for him. He had a great year last year. Finished the season 19, 18, and 11 with a .916 save percentage and a 2.46 goals against average. It is incredible to see the story for this goaltender, Joey Daccord, to continue in the National Hockey League. A guy who's kind of bounced around from team to team. He's gotten a chance in that Seattle Kraken organization, and he came up big time for them last year. Obviously missed the playoffs, but was able to secure a deal with them because of the performance he put on. A career year, like I said, 916 save percentage, 2.46 goals against average. He's going to be battling it out with Philip Grubauer all season long, I think. A pretty good start to the season for the Seattle Kraken. Lost game one, lost the season opener, 3-2 to the St. Louis Blues, but they're going to be battling at 50-50. He started 46 games last year, played in 50, but I think it's going to be a 50-50 split for the most part if both these guys can perform like we know that they can perform. Philip Grubauer kind of struggled with his game over the last couple of seasons, but I think he can get back into shape. But Joey Daccord, like I said, 5-year, $25 million deal, $5 million AAV for the Seattle Kraken. I think it's massive for them. This is a team that, in their second season got really deep into the playoffs, at least tried to get into a deep playoff run, but have struggled over the last couple of seasons, or last year especially, with that offensive punch. Matty Beniers kind of took a dip in his progression and his developmental skill set. You look at guys like Oliver Bjorkstrand, Jared McCann, Vince Dunn. Are they able to repeat? You now have Brandon Montour on the back end. Can he bring that oomph that they're looking for, both physically and offensively, jumping in on the rush, quarterbacking the top power play unit if anything goes on with Vince Dunn, who we've seen kind of struggle at times, struggle with injury, struggle consistently at times for the organization. So big news for Joey Daccord, big news for the Seattle Kraken moving forward, and it's big news across the National Hockey League with all three of these signings. Carter Verhaeghe, 8-year deal, $56 million. Linus Ullmark, 4-year deal, $33 million, and Joey Daccord, 5-year deal, $25 million for all those players right now. It's a major signings for all three guys to start the season. But Joey Daccord, like I was talking about, I think he's going to be great for this organization. He's 28 years old right now. And after the performance he put on last year, I think he can come into this season, have the confidence. Again, got a little bit of a better defensive group in front of him, adding Brandon Montour into the lineup. So I think it's going to be monster major news for both Joey Daccord, Philip Grubauer, and the Seattle Kraken organization. When we come back after the break, we got big time bets, everything you need to know for Thursday's big time betting breakdown. Favorite picks, lock of the night coming up next. This episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. Thank you. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Thank you so much. Hey, NFL fans, you can start this season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bet. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. Once again, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. Continue to hit the subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. We appreciate all that love and support you show us Monday through Friday, and we're going to try to show that love back to you, or I'm going to show that love to you on Thursdays. Big time betting breakdown. Lots of games to choose from. Absolutely love what I'm looking at right now, but I got 3 bets and 3 scenarios that I'm looking at specifically right now going into this season, or into Thursday night. Number 1, massive game between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the New Jersey Devils. This is a back-to-back for the Toronto Maple Leafs, as their season opener was last night in Montreal. Again, we don't know. I don't know what's happened yet because I'm recording before the games even started, but it's a back-to-back for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Joseph Woll is dealing with an injury. Anthony Solar's got the start last night, so Hildeby is likely to get the start tonight. This is massive news for the New Jersey Devils in their season opener, home opener in New Jersey. It's also Sheldon Keefe, redemption, battling it out with his old team. It's going to be big for him going up against his former club of the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I think his team and his players are going to be fired up to get a win for him at home. Number 1, you could go with the money line. I think that's definitely the safe bet as well. Again, in a back-to-back for the Toronto Maple Leafs to start off the season, I'm going with the Jack Hughes over 1.5 points. I have a player prop, I have a money line, and I have an over-under. So first bet of the night, I'm going with the Hughes over 1.5 points. Played really good in that global series against the Buffalo Sabres. Had a couple points in that second game in that global series. Like I said, I think it's going to be a massive night in the season home opener for Jack Hughes and the New Jersey Devils. That's my first pick. Hughes over 1.5 points in the home opener. Second pick of the night, New York Islanders home opener as well against the Utah Hockey Club. They win their season opener in that 5-2 win against the Chicago Blackhawks. They're on the road now in New York, and I think this team behind with Patrick Waugh at the helm, leading this team a full season with him on the bench. And again, you've got Ilya Sorokin, Semyon Varlamov. I like the tandem there. The crew on the back end, Noah Dobson, Pulak, all those guys. And then you bring in Anthony Duclair on that top line, who can bring in that scoring punch, be a little bit faster on that left wing side, which they've struggled with. I like the Islanders money line at -154. I like the home odds for them going into this matchup. And then for my final pick and lock of the night, Dallas Stars versus the Nashville Predators. This is, to me, is going to be a goalie battle between UC Saros. I know it says he's injured right now. I'm hoping he's in the lineup. But UC Saros versus Jake Ottinger. Stars versus Predators. I'm going with the under 6.5 at -120 between these two clubs. 7 out of the last 10 games have been under the number. I know the last 3 games have been over very significantly, but when you look at the start of the season, where they played in the regular season, a lot of these October, November games, they've been under 5.5, under 6.5. So I like the under 6.5. The probability leans towards the under 6.5 because, like I said, the last 7 out of the last 10 have gone under the number. I think it's going to be a goalie battle between Jake Ottinger and UC Saros. So that's the lock of the night. Stars Predators under 6.5 -120. Parlay that together with the Hughes over 1.5 points. Islanders money line at -154. Stars Predators under 6.5 at -120. Lock of the night. Those are the big time bets. Starting off the season hot. Hopefully we can make you some money and make some money for myself as well. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. For your second listen, please go check out the Locked On NHL podcast, where the season never ends, providing national expertise with a local perspective. You can find the link in the description below, so you don't have to search for it. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. From both Flip and I know he's not here, but even so, we wish you good luck with your bets. We wish you good luck with your fantasy hockey teams, and we shall see you back here again tomorrow. Peace.